Welcome to the Believe, Be Real, Be Bold podcast for authentic dating in Denver. My name is Dave Glazer, your host and facilitator, where each week we bring expert guests to come share their knowledge, tools, and tips so that we can show up as our most authentic self. Hey guys, welcome back to the Believe, Be Real, Be Bold podcast. I am so enthusiastic to introduce my guest today, Ms. Laura Ellen Love. How are you?
Hey, I am great.
That's good. We've known each other for almost 2 years now. I was reflecting on it before we jumped on Zoom, and it was about 2 years ago that we stumbled upon each other on Facebook.
That's right.
And it's one of those cases of how social media can be used in such a beneficial way to connect over Zoom a few times, have a chat on the phone, and then really just kind of connect for business reasons, but also becoming friends along the way.
Absolutely. Beautiful progression.
I totally agree. But you're in LA now, and you just recently moved there this year?
I am, yes. I moved down from Northern California to Southern California in January.
What prompted that move?
I needed a change. I lived up in Northern California majority of my life, except for some years in high school. I was in Arizona. And at the end of last year, I just felt very stagnant, unfulfilled, couldn't quote unquote figure what it was out. And then I looked in my environment. I'm like, whoa, I've lived here my whole life. And I visited Southern California every once in a while. I'm like, I'm just going to move there. Let's see how I feel physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of that in a totally new location to get to know myself in a different environment. And I'm so happy I did.
Now, you've definitely been working through connecting with yourself through work. I mean, that's how we know each other, is who you serve, how you do it, and what's brought us to this point. But give us a little backstory on who you are, why you chose to get into this path that you're on now.
Great question and interesting story. You know, we all have our own. I started my personal development journey when I was 17, actually. So 12 years ago, I was sent away to an all-girls therapeutic boarding school, and we did personal development workshops. And it was my first experience of really getting to know the identity and your autonomy as a single person, not even, connected to your family, even your blood. And it was from that point on where I also went into health and physical, yoga instructing. I healed myself from a surgery. So I'm like, okay, I have to teach this. I've always been a teacher. If something works for me, I want to teach other people how it could possibly work for them. So I dove into yoga instructing. I went into a chiropractic office and was the office manager. So I learned some business and helped my personal yoga instructing business in that way. And it just kept snowballing into there's more, there's deeper, there's more than this. And then in 2017, I went to my first business conference, I'll call it business conference, speaking conference. And it really ignited this, okay, Laura, there's more than just the physical body. There is. And I teach a lot of physical body now, but what about the mind? Right? Where are we connected? How can I bring yoga to more people? So I got onto speaking vision, and that was my first step as a coach, like a year and a half ago, in the coaching space, and really integrating everything that I learned beyond just yoga into that. And that was all up in Northern California. Two engagements in there, open adoption in there, and all these really big life experiences that I was able to test. Okay, what am I teaching other people? What am I learning? How can I actually apply this to my life? And knowing it was changing me, it could change other people. So that's just like you, Dave, right? Like the path of changing and influencing in a positive way is really what I believe why I'm here and why so many of us are here if we allow that to be so. So I've kind of taken all the punches to me, all the things, and just seen it as good. What can I learn from this? How can I better myself? How can I help other people who may be in the same situation? And really it's transformed into something that I'm so excited for the future too, but I'm really, really enjoying the present.
Good. And And what is it exactly that you do now to serve others that's unlike your yoga experience before?
Hmm. So I don't teach yoga anymore. I do teach meditation, and I record personalized meditations for people as one income source, which is just completely separate. And then in my coaching, I call myself an energy strategist. So I use what I've learned from yoga and all the other trainings I've had to serve achievement-based men who need to experience fulfillment, freedom, and flow. There's a huge cultural push right now with push, 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 right? Push persistence, which I totally love. I absolutely adore it. But in my past, my dad was an engineer and he traveled all the time. And so as a child, a lot of my trauma came from, or part of my trauma came from being, quote unquote, abandoned, feeling abandoned as my dad was out pushing and making a great living for our family to live comfortably. And so I'm seeing that more and more and more, and moving to LA. And at the end of last year, I'm like, okay, I get the energy thing and I'm serving. I've always worked with majority men. I love women, love you ladies. I am too, but just being called to serve the men. And I figured out through the last couple months of this really deep internal work, why and where that came from, right? Where is the why? What's the why that brings up the tears? I'm like, wow, it's because I experienced this as a child, and I really love serving men who are in that place of pushing and going and going and going when their family's being left behind, when their kids are not getting the love that they need, because I was that child, right? So they can develop into these beautiful children, but then that also means the parents are suffering. That man is suffering in silence. And I love creating this space for men to really open up, to share and get to know themselves in the way that I've been able to get to know myself, because that's not really taught.
That's definitely true in this current day and age. We're not taught. There's no male ritual. There's no becoming a man ritual like there was centuries ago. But this busy man, this achievement-based man, how does he understand or realize that he needs to make time for this work?
Great question. It usually shows up first in the symptom, right? There's symptoms to the root problems. And what I see is anxiety. There's that he's, he's making the money he wants to, but this is one guy, he's making the money he wants to, and he has this anxiety in going out and meeting women, right? So as a soul, as a developed person, we want love. We need love. So if you are so efficient and you are in the zone and you can work and you can do your calls and you can close $1 million deals, but you can't go up and talk to a woman and you don't feel comfortable in that space and your head's down in the phone, you're not well-rounded. And that's where the soul anxiety comes from. So to transfer, the energy of, hey, you can own yourself in this space and you can own yourself in this space too. Let's figure out what the root problems are that are blocking you from being that same person, authentically, to fully express yourself with women as well. So anxiety, starting to feel like, what else is there, and anxiety can show up as a lot of anger, right? If they start lashing out at people. And it really is just starting to notice, like, hey, I don't like the person I am around my family, or I don't feel comfortable going home. Well, really, what is that about? Why do you love work so much and you can't go home and sit with your kids at the table, right? And how is that really affecting them? It's also affecting the man as well.
Mm-hmm. So as an energy strategist, how do you shift this perspective from push persistence to maybe accepting what's coming to you in love, in family, in purpose?
Well, the first phase is usually something physical and dropping down with a meditation. So for all my clients, I always do personalized guided meditations. And it's because I know and can see what's really going on for them. Or if they're not physically moving, they're assigned to go on walks or whatever that is to really just move their physical body. Because what happens is the experiences that we have in life, not only are we mentally processing them, but our physical body is as well. So if they cannot even know what it is that is there, it's important to move it around and shake it up So I don't ask them to take anything out of their life. I don't say, hey, spend less time at work, spend more time at home. I'm like, no, keep doing your routine for now, but let's take a few minutes every single day and calm your nervous system down. Because that's really, really like the sweet spot of calming your nervous system down, 10 to 15 minutes a day. And that's when you create the space between the pushing, the space between the thoughts. And you can really say, hey, whoa, I'm crying right now. Or, wow, this memory came up of when I was 3 years old. I didn't even know, or whatever that is. And to hold space for them and know that whatever memories come up, like, it's there for a reason, right? To not push it back down and go back to work, to really sit with it and like breathe. And so I give, I preface it that way. If you need to breathe through it, breathe through it. Get in a quiet space away from your family. If you don't feel comfortable, maybe crying around them, and that's fine. Because this is really the internal work that allows us to connect to other people on a deeper level. But we can't connect to other people, especially our family and loved ones, on a deeper level if we're not connecting to the wounds and healing ourselves first.
So that kind of gives me a good perspective on phase one, connecting with the physical body. And then what happens between you and these men in an energy strategy kind of a way for phase two?
Yeah, awesome. So I work over Zoom or in person, but I get in touch with what's coming up for them. So it depends, and then it gets really personalized, right? So it depends on what phase they're at, what they really need. I have Reiki in my toolbox, so I can do some energy work over Zoom. If we're in person, 2 weeks ago, I was up in Northern California with a client, and we did in-person energy work, and it really it's clearing away the debris that they're shaking up for themselves, which is really beautiful process. And then we go into, what are you eating? What are you drinking? What are your foundational routines that can make or break the rest of you? Because self-care is very important. So if you have been ignoring yourself, if they have been ignoring themselves because they're so stressed out at work and they're so stressed out at home, it's really important to come back to that. So we address routine at that point, right? So the first phase was kind of getting in touch or like moving it around. Then the next phase is, okay, what can we really move in your routine? What do you need to add in? What else do you need to add in? What do you need to take away? Do you really need to go do that? Make a date night with your wife, schedule some sex in there, whatever you need to do. And if that makes you uncomfortable, it means you probably need to do it, right? So we kind of get into that space of more assignments that are bigger, that are like, oh my gosh, I really like feel anxious about that. And then we set up a strategy of, okay, when you feel that anxiety, when you feel that unease, no, just like in work, when you're like, I got this, do that with your wife, right? Do that with your girlfriend, do that with a woman at, the driving range that you want to approach, whatever it is, right? Or your kids, set time aside and know that it's going to feel uncomfortable because it's bringing up the stuff for you from your own childhood. So I preface it like that, like it's going to be uncomfortable and it's okay, and that's what we're here for. And then they come back to me, tell me what happened, and then we move on and we move deeper. So it's really about, again, connecting to the nervous system because it's been traumatized, and that's totally fine. That's what happens. We're here to break through that, and to get into the space where, okay, sitting down with your kid, you're not projecting your dad onto him, right? You're able to sit down with him and connect, or your wife, and connect after 1, 2, or 3 times, and then you feel at ease. And now you have higher confidence connecting with her on an emotional level, which you haven't been able to do yet because you just like having sex with her because it feels good. And then she's more fulfilled. And then you start opening up this whole new space where you don't really feel as anxious to come home. It's something that's exciting because you're actually connecting with the other human being.
So that maybe the difference as it gets personalized in these phases between a single guy and say like a married man or a man in a relationship, how do you guide the single man towards kind of picturing how this would benefit him?
So the single guy, I'll think of one client right now. That's what he wants. That's what he wanted, right? He's like, I'm a successful surgeon. I've been dating. When he came to me, he wanted to get over his ex. and he wants to get married. He's a little older, but he wants to get married. He likes younger women, which is like a huge thing. It happens all the time. And so I'm like, okay, well, when we got him over his ex literally in one session. He was just energetically over her. He's like, okay, I learned the lessons. I didn't see that before. Now I can move forward. So I'm like, who do you want to be when you meet your wife? Right? So it's not just go out there, start meeting women. It's like, who do you want to be when you are with her? So he started learning new skills. He has learned how to play guitar, and he totally loves it. He practices all the time, and he's starting to really enjoy that. He's gotten back to the gym. I've gotten him into yoga. So I don't personally do yoga, but I'll assign yoga to people if I feel like they need it. So he's developing himself as a human being, which brings in energetically the person to match that, instead of repeating the same patterns from past relationships, because you're the same person and you're just like, oh, well, I'm over that one. Now I'm on to the next one. Right. But there's this sweet time in between relationships, if we allow it to be so, where we can develop ourselves, learn new skills, learn that new language, right? How cool would it be if you're on that date with whomever you're maybe going to marry in the future? You're like, oh yeah, I just learned French last, I started learning French and I learned guitar, instead of, yeah, I'm a surgeon and I really like it, like be a well-rounded human being and take that time to really get to know yourself. And he's doing an amazing job at that.
That's awesome. It always starts with us as the individual. And when you're describing the gym, the guitar, yoga, and self-care, it kind of allows us to exude more just self-confidence and a foundation of who we are when we do begin to date again. Is that a top priority? Is that a goal for when you work with somebody?
That having them, what? What's the goal?
Like recenter on themselves. Like the focus is here so that they can attract a better energy than, like you said, the past patterns in previous relationships.
Absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt. And he's seriously glowing. You can tell when somebody is fulfilled and happy from the inside, and they're learning new skills and breaking past these things. And, he even brought up learning guitar brought up a memory when he was 5 and he thought he didn't have rhythm and he wasn't good. I'm like, whoa. What a great opportunity for you to heal that part of yourself and challenge and get to develop, right? It's so important, yes, to attract somebody new. And then not only, because I see people getting stuck in this, right? Like not wanting to repeat old patterns, but because they're the same person that broke up or was broken up with, they're going to not only attract that same person, but accept them into their life, which I think is the next phase of it, because I've attracted similar people into my life who were my ex-fiance, right? But I am a different person now, so I cannot accept them into my life. I don't give them the time. I don't give them the energy that I would have if I stayed in that same vibrational space that I left him in. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it does. And I'm kind of chuckling a little bit because this is our episode coming up. Can exes be friends?
Oh.
And we're definitely taking it a deeper level by talking about how much time we devote to them mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually after they're no longer our partner. And if we're devoting all that time to the ex and we're trying to be friends or we're trying to get over them, then we're not ready to attract and accept the next person that's supposed to be with us.
Absolutely. That's a good episode. I'm going to listen to it.
I cannot wait. This is the first time where something came up in my personal life that I actually want to address for the benefit of our listeners. And that's what I'm here for. I mean, I just absolutely love researching, talking to experts, and then producing content that our audience loves to hear. But it's also super educational too.
I think that's so important. It's not just fluff, right? It can't just be fluff. We want to learn, and that's why everyone listening is here to better themselves and get into those relationships and keep the relationships that are quality.
That's right. And to fulfill you to the absolute top of the mountain, like these men that you're working with are achievement-based men. They're not going to settle for anything less than greatness in their romantic life, in their work life.
Be surprised.
I'd be surprised. So let's just say like before they meet you, they settle.
Okay.
But after they work with you, they're never going to settle again.
Yes. Yes.
Got it. And that's what I want for the people of this community, to show up authentically, like taking care of themselves first so that they show up glowing, so that they can have the lasting love that they want, desire, and deserve.
Oh, I love that. Want, desire, and serve. Yes.
So in your professional opinion, let's actually go down that rabbit hole of devoting energy to the ex, and we could put it simply, can exes be friends?
Why? Why?
Why would they want to be?
Yeah.
So that's a very good question, is because like they're an ex for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
However, what I loved about what you said earlier is the energy work that your client did in the very first session was like, oh, I learned what I was supposed to learn by using you as a sounding board, which is a great skill and tool to use, is having outside eyes on our love life and our relationships and our work life and etc. But it only took him a little bit of time to understand what the life lesson was supposed to be so that he could let go of that energy that he was holding on to with his ex.
Yes. Yeah, it was very powerful.
And I think that answers the question of can exes be friends in a kind of a deeper connotation.
So the energy that you're talking about with exes, I'm just having some thoughts come up. So for me and everyone I've dated or been with, I've been engaged twice. I have a special place in my heart for them. You know, there's no animosity, at least on my end. I don't have hate. I don't have regret. I don't have resentment or anything. I've like worked through that. I've looked at it. I've dug into it. I've seen what it's there to teach me, and I've learned those lessons. So that for me personally, I can expand past it. I can dissolve it. That I can that I can experience peace. And I think that's and get rid of the longing, any attachment that I used to have. Like, I don't know, in high school, I was like, I'm going to be friends with all my exes, right? It's such a long time ago. But it's like, really, why? What's the intention there? That I can text my exes if I wanted to and say, hey, like, hope you're well, whatever. But there's no attachment of, oh, are they going to answer me back? I don't really do this, by the way, but, oh, are they going to answer me back? What could have been, part of ending a relationship, some people get into longing for what was lost, right? But we had so many plans, right? I've heard that we had so many plans. I'm like, okay, well, that means new plans are coming in, right? But you have to let go of those old plans. And I think you mentioned it a bit ago, that the like letting go of it just energetically and just letting yourself feel at peace with, okay, I get now this space to not just move on, not really let go, but heal, right? Just heal, because every relationship can bring wounds as well. And really look at, like, where in that relationship did I feel not confident? Where was my self-esteem low? What did I like that they did? What did I not like that they did? Like, get to know your needs and your wants on a whole new level. And then the friendship, I mean, unless you have kids together and you have to co-parent, I really don't, like, personally, if you're bringing the ex in and you hang out with them and things like that, it just muddies the water and can potentially create drama in your future. Maybe not right now and you don't think it's that big of a deal, but you're energetically sending messages to your next partner and to the universe like, hey, I'm not ready to move on. I'm not ready to do this work. And that's why I'm keeping them around as a friend.
I 100% agree. And that's definitely been on my mind recently. Making space for what's yet to come is a number one goal for me, so that I'm not personally holding myself back by hanging on. And as soon as I accept that life lesson, all right, thank you, God, for teaching me what I was supposed to learn. and now I'm ready for what you've got next. So you've got these tools in your toolbox like self-care, gym, guitar, yoga, a little bit of Reiki in your energy work. And then how do you bring meditation into the single guy's life and maybe the guy that's in a relationship's life?
Same way. So it's just my recording equipment. It's all personalized. So I know the situation that they're in and exactly what they need. And then I'm also aware of the, main 7 points of energy in the body, the chakras, if people listening are familiar with that. And what trauma and anxiety gets held within each one. So each level, you can have different beliefs about yourself, and it energetically blocks you and stops you from being clear in that space, literally by the thoughts that we have and the beliefs that we choose to live in, because we can choose the beliefs that we live in. So where did those come from? And I get to know whatever, so it's the same across the board, and then it's personalized. So whether they're in a relationship or not, it's, do you need it in the morning? Do you need it in the evening? Do you need it in the afternoon? Do you need all three, right? I do mini meditations, which is like 3 to 5 minutes. And it's just before they get to their meeting, the meeting that they're really stressed about. Sit in your car, listen to my voice for 3 to 5 minutes, and then go in and kill it. Like whatever you need to really tap into your nervous system. And that's my ultimate goal with them, is to give them those couple of minutes of, okay, I'm separate from all this noise. I'm separate from my partner. I'm separate from my kids. I am my own person. And I can breathe into that. And it's not this anxiety because I have emptiness, right? This unfulfilledness that is really creating the anxiety. Just calming the nervous system is so delicious. It's great. It's wonderful. And that's when you can really reprogram your conscious and see what's going on.
I've been using meditation with my yoga because as a jiu-jitsu athlete, my hips get so freaking tight. And if I'm already calming my nervous system with a skill like yoga, then I would absolutely want to add in some meditation along with it. And the general consensus or the general misconception is that we're trying to clear our mind. And that's not necessarily what we're aiming to do. Is that right?
I agree with that.
Yeah. And for me, it kind of flows from one thought to the next without my control. Mm. And that's when I feel the best with meditation.
That you're just able to notice and witness.
And then let my inner guide, that intuition that I've been able to tap into recently, lead me, as opposed to me controlling the next thought and the next thought and the next thought.
That's very heart-based is what I'm getting. And wonderful. I was listening to a podcast earlier, and the comedian was talking about that, right? With meditation or just, I think it was meditation, or the ability to, like clouds in the sky, right? Watch the thoughts go past. And if you're able to sit back and be in that observant place, or the leaf going down the river, or whatever it is, then you're able to say, okay, what are my thoughts here to teach me, right? What am I supposed to be learning from this lesson? Instead of gripping. Like I've been saying this phrase recently, I don't know where it came from, but it's you're either gripping or you're growing, right? If you're able to see the thoughts like you're speaking about, which is so beautiful, that's when the space also gets created between the thoughts, because then it starts moving slower and you're like, yes, I can breathe. I can be, I can see them. Okay, that's wonderful. Instead of like, oh my God, I'm trying to meditate. All these thoughts are coming. I'm doing this wrong. And then you're gripping, right? And when you're gripping, there's no growing. But if you're able to calm your nervous system, be like, whoa, that's an interesting thought. Okay. And then it goes away. Oh, interesting. Okay. It goes away. Oh, there's a memory. Oh, interesting. And then after the meditation, if it comes back and you need to work on it, then do it. But sometimes it just needs to bubble up and then be able to let go. But if it bubbles up and you grip onto it, then you just, it's not fun.
That takes a little extra time and a little extra intention in order for us to process that thought that we grip onto, in order to let it go.
Yes. Way more energy needed for that.
That was a big sigh. I think you were letting go of that idea or that picture that you're painting in your head of like grip, grip, grip. I think that sigh was helping you let that go.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know your time is valuable, so thank you very much for spending your afternoon with me. If there's one thing that we maybe touched on a little bit or didn't get to today that you'd like us to think about or leave our listeners with, what would that be?
Let me think. I touched on it a little bit, but I'll bring it back around. The space between relationships that can also be applied if you're in a relationship. Um, for some reason, I've heard recently people are like, okay, well, I'm in a relationship, so I can't do that work. Or, I'm married, so, whatever. But you're either looking for a way for your personal work to work, or you're looking for an excuse, right, for it not to work. So whether you're with a partner or you're not with a partner, please take the time to get the information that you need. Like, but example, listening to this podcast, educate yourself on your own personal work and your own personal journey. Because whether you're with a partner or not, they in the present moment or them in the future will benefit from you working on yourself, and they will be better because of it. And to not fear the unknown of whatever that may look like. I think society is like, oh, there's an unknown, so we have to be afraid of it. Fear of the unknown. I see it all the time. I'm like, who told us we had to be scared of that? Like, who told us that? We don't need to be scared of that. But to really dive in deep into the heart, your intuition, yes, but really your heart. Like, put your hands over your heart, take a breath, just a couple minutes a day, whether you're with a partner or not, will really like deepen your fulfillment as an individual. It's our own individual path. But if you want to connect to those deeper levels with another human, you have to connect deeper with yourself no matter what.
Yeah, I totally agree, because this podcast was created for daters, but what I've come to understand is that these principles apply to us as individuals at every stage of our life, every phase that we're going through, that returning to the skills that we've learned, journaling or meditating or consistent exercise or properly fueling our body with nutrition. These things have to happen while we're in a relationship as well to make it what we want it to be.
Absolutely. And with that, I noticed like the fear, of if I'm in a relationship and I start this personal development journey, right, and I'm doing all these things, I'm taking care of myself, what if my partner doesn't do it, right? Like, what if they're not on the same page? Well, first of all, it took you a while to get there. So, give them some grace, but then just take it as information. Invite them into your new world. Hey, babe, do you want to go make this smoothie with me? Do you want to do this? And if they keep resisting and saying no, 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 and they're not on the same path, you just elevated yourself, and it's okay that they're not. And that's a future thing, but just take it as information, right? Don't get scared. Don't let the fear of what if they don't stop you from doing the work.
That's absolutely correct. And that has come up so many times for me in the last year of like spiritual leadership or just leadership in general in a relationship. You can't force anybody to come along on the journey with you, and you can't want it enough for the both of you. And simply by elevating yourself, they will either eventually rise up or they will stay in the same place, and your distance will either come closer together or further apart. And like you said, that's information. But specifically, when we were closing out our conversation, I wanted to tie two things together. You said you're either wanting it to work or you're preventing it from working, and you're creating these beliefs. So if we've created all these beliefs that it's not going to work for us and that it'll never happen for me, how do we make that mindset shift so that it is possible, so that anything is possible?
Great question. So I see there's like layers to this too. So yes, it's a belief. I use the word story, first layer. Okay. So if you're telling yourself the story of this isn't going to work, because you're future tripping and you think your partner isn't going to do it or whatever. And you're making up the excuses, you're making up the stories, right? So you're able, then going back to what we were talking about, like with the meditation space, like you can do that at any point in time. You don't have to be sitting like super zenned out to be able to have this skill, but to notice the stories. Because what I've been noticing is if you use the word belief, people have a harder time initially grasping on to, hey, I can change my beliefs. But if you're letting people know that you guys, you're just making up a story, you're just telling yourself a story that is getting in the way of you doing the personal work. And what happens on a deeper level is, yes, those become beliefs. But if you're able to scrape the surface and be like, okay, so let's use the example of what's a good example for a story that people tell themselves that gets in the way of doing the work in relationship.
I'm not good enough.
I'm not good enough. Okay. I'm not good enough. So on a one level, that's a story, right? I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. Where did that come from? So you get to the root of the symptom. So the story and the thought of I'm not good enough is the symptom. Okay. And then the root of that is, your first grade teacher was like verbally abusive to you, and you developed this story that I'm not good enough because somebody told you that story, because they were literally projecting their own shit onto you as a first grader, and you took it on because little kids are sponges, right? We're sponges. So, and we all are to some level, no matter what age you are. So then you take on this story as your identity, and then it goes on for you for years and years, and then it plays out in your relationships. And I see so many people in relationships that are acting as if they're children. They're acting as if they're from their wounds, from their first grade selves in these stories. So what story do you want to tell yourself when you wake up and you say, I'm not good enough, right? Somebody says something to you and you take it personally, okay? And then it reaffirms this story that you're not good enough. Notice if your brain is saying, I'm not good enough, be like, whoa. Okay, this is a great example of just whoa, I had that thought. Okay, so this comes up for me. Interesting. How does it play out? What am I stopping myself from doing because I have this story, this thought that has been fed to me? And initially, you don't even need to know where it came from. Just in the present moment, notice, oh, it came up, right? You're listening to this podcast right now, and later today, you're going to have this thought of, oh, I'm not good enough because of whatever comes up, and it triggers you because that's just how things happen. So you're able to see it now and be like, wow, okay, so next time it comes up, and this is where the change happens, this is where the switch happens. You have the awareness that the thought comes up, the story. Then you have the intention of changing it. So when it comes up, instead of saying, I'm not good enough, look at it. It's like, whoa, I'm really scared and I'm going to do it anyways, or whatever the thing is, right? Or I'm going to go put on a face mask and feel good, or I'm going to look in the mirror and say, I'm a badass, whatever the opposite is that you need in that moment to really change in that moment, that shift. And then just do that over and over and over again until the thoughts become slower and you don't see them as much. And then once that energetic change and that shift is able to happen and you have the grasp, you have that growth and that like expanded, like that gets really deep. Once you're able to do that, you're like, oh, this is so cool. I can do this with all the thoughts that are coming up in my head, and then you're changing yourself on a deeper level without saying like, hey, this is a belief, because beliefs, people, it's like heavy. It's like, oh my God, I have to change my beliefs. Like, whoa, that's a lot of work. But it's like, no, it's a story that you've told yourself. You can change the story, switch it when you notice it, and then just see what happens, right? Just see what happens. Like create that space, make it fun too. It's not like this heavy thing that has to, like you get to do this work, and don't future trip and say, oh my God, how's it going to change my life? Just be like, how can I change in this moment? It's a win if you notice the thought of I'm not good enough and you're like, whoa, I noticed it. I'm like, yes, I'm good enough. And then you keep driving. Like that is a win, you guys. That's amazing. So many people don't do that. So that's a gift.
Another story that might come up commonly, I hear this a lot with men, is I'll take care of that when I do X, Y, or Z. Like when I make enough money, I'll get into a relationship, or when I find the perfect woman, I'll eventually get married. And that's kind of a story that we tell ourselves of like, I'm not ready now, but when I am ready, it'll be because of this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we realign and commit to not future tripping on that kind of a story that we tell ourselves?
Very powerful also here as well. And so that's like the if then when, right? So if that happens then, and then that's when this will change. So we'll go with the one that was like, what was it? Like, when I find my perfect wife, that's when I'll change. Is that where you're?
I think the more common one is like, when I earn enough money, I will do this. Like, oh, I need a vacation, but I don't make enough money. Or when I earn enough money, X amount, I will take this vacation.
Okay. And it's coming from people who like really need a vacation.
Oh yeah, like the men that are achievement focused, like you work with, are like, I'm so tired, I'm so burnt out, I need a vacation, but
Yeah.
I have this story I need to tell myself over and over and over again to hold me back.
Yeah, so good. So I would ask, like, define vacation. What does that vacation look like that you're holding on to, that you can only have once you achieve this amount of money, right? Is that serving you? Is that goal serving you? If it's not, and it's creating more anxiety than excitement, then there needs to be a reframe around it, right? If that's the story that keeps repeating, then define, what is the vacation you have in your mind? Oh, well, I need to fly first class to X, Y, and Z and stay at this hotel and drive this car and meet these women and all that stuff, right? And then you get the story. It's like, okay, that's the vision that you have. How can we reframe, and like, maybe let's put that out a little bit more, right? That's not the vacation that you need. You need a vacation within your mind and your heart right now. So maybe make it smaller vision. Like, don't get rid of the bigger vision, but let's put steps in between, right? Like, if you really need to take a vacation, design something else in the meantime that you can still feel is giving you the space right now to get to that bigger goal. That you can have both. Like, you can have more, right? People love that. It's like, oh, I can have more. And to redefine, and not taking away the goal, right? But adding something in there that allows you to feel that space now, to take a breath. Because usually it's when we are able to take that breath and maybe redefine and go to a staycation, right? Or maybe you need 30 minutes every other day to yourself, or you need to go to that spa, or whatever it is, that allows you to get to that next bigger goal faster. And people don't get that. It's like, I was hiking with a friend, this huge, like 2.5 hour hike up this really big hill. And we stopped about 3/4 of the way up, and I sat and I meditated. It was gorgeous, right? And I was like, okay, I'm going to expand space, feel. And then I went up the last fourth of the mountain with so much more energy than if I had pushed myself the whole entire way. I still made it, and I felt better, right? And I was in the right form, and I wasn't hurting my body and all this stuff. So you can reframe, identify what is the vacation, identify whatever that perfect wife is for you, right? Because sometimes we keep putting it off, because then it's like, do you believe that you deserve the perfect wife? Because that's why you're actually putting it off. Right? I always ask people to define everything that they're saying, because everyone has different vision, and I can't help them if I don't know exactly what it is, because it's different for me than it is for them. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, 100% relatable. I can definitely place myself in that person's shoes, because I find myself saying, if this, then when, or creating this story for myself that either holds me back or launches me forward. It's definitely an opportunity and a skill that I've needed to develop in the last 2 years of being single, which has been an absolute beautiful time in my life, with its ups and downs. But along with those ups and downs, I've learned and I've gained perspective in order to create something even better when I'm ready for it.
Powerful.
Yeah. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
Best way to do that is social media. And I am Laura Ellen Love on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Send me a message. I have videos and content up all the time. I also have a YouTube channel. So Laura Ellen Love across the board. contact me.
And you're a pretty busy girl, giving speeches across the country. What's next up and coming for you that we want to tune into and maybe join you?
So I have a couple things, a book and a new venture with this amazing person where it's more like conscious business development. And that will be, follow me on social media and I'll be sharing a little bit more about that there. But it brings the skill set that I use with achievement-based men now into the like purely business space and with another amazing human being. So it's just, expanding the vision. Who else can we bring in? How many more people can we impact? And then at the end of this year, more specific to me personally, I'm putting on a workshop, which I'll give you all the details and I'll keep everyone posted. But it's a 3-day intensive specifically for achievement-based men, led by women.
Sure. Where is this located?
It'll be in Southern California.
Awesome. I'll put it on my calendar and I'll be sure to share it with a new group of men that are all achievement based and focused and ready and willing to change their lives right now.
Love it. Appreciate you.
Always love talking to you, Laura. Appreciate your time today and thanks again for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
Good. What do you say in the next 6 to 12 months we do like a Facebook Live or we get together and we do some collaborative work in person?
I say hell yes.
That's what I like to hear. Thank you so very much.